Hey, Zolna, can you hear me? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the meeting this evening for Canton Waterfront Park Master Plan. I'm Zolna Russell with Flora Teeter Landscape Architects. We were the consultant working with Baltimore City and the stakeholders to develop this master plan. And I'd just like to introduce our speakers this evening, and then I'll turn it over to Kate Brower from the Department of Rec and Parks. So Kate Brower, as I just mentioned, is the project manager for this project. We've been working together for some time to develop a plan I think you'll be very excited to see. Brad Jones from WRA is the civil engineer working with the team. He's provided all his expertise for utilities, stormwater, and other engineering aspects. And we're also very fortunate this evening to have Director Moore with us, and he's going to provide some an introduction and some background on the project. So Kate, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Zolna. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening. We are really excited to share this plan with you. It is the result of 3 years of work on this project. It has been a complex one, and we are looking forward to...
Kate, I can't hear you, even though you're not muted.
Okay. How is this? Can you hear me now?
No.
Zolna, I can hear her. Can you hear me, Kate?
Okay. Can you hear me?
No, sorry.
Okay.
Want me to start, and then you can jump in if you can get that working? Okay. So again, welcome to the Canton Waterfront Master Plan. We're happy to have you with us this evening. This is our agenda for this evening. As I mentioned, Director Moore is going to do an introduction, and then we're going to recap the project timeline, briefly review the preliminary concepts and the comments that we received as part of the design process, and then we're going to review the new master plan, talk about phasing and how that might take place, funding, and the cost of park implementation, as well as take comments from you guys through the chat. So I just wanted to mention there are several ways that you can comment this evening. You can either put your comments in the chat, as it sounds like some people have already done, and also, there's a SurveyMonkey link, which BCRP is going to post on their Facebook page. That will have a survey. You can fill that out. And I'm just reading the comments now. It sounds like, Kate, people can hear you in the audience, but we can't hear you on this end. So I think you can just go ahead with your comments in a moment. So 3 ways to comment: through the Facebook page, the SurveyMonkey link, through the chat on this broadcast, and also you can email Kate Brower, and her email address is in the beginning of this presentation. I also wanted to mention that the comment period will be open until January 8th. So there's quite some time. If you know somebody who is interested but could not attend this evening, please do direct them to the BCRP Facebook page, where they'll be able to see a recording of this presentation and also comment via the SurveyMonkey.
Okay, we'll try this again.
Direct. We're not having good technology luck today. It looks like we've also lost Director Moore.
Oh, boy.
So I don't know if he's
Okay.
going to log back in, but we're just going to, he's back. Oh, gone.
Okay.
Hopefully he'll be back in a moment and we can have him do his introduction, but we're just going to move forward. So Kate, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Zolna. I'm just very happy to be here this evening. This has been a lot of work with the design team and Rec and Parks. As I mentioned, it's been about 3 years. We started in 2018. We have been working very hard with a lot of organizations listed on the slide. I'm not going to go through all of them, but we formed a steering committee. We've had public meetings, and we've worked very hard and diligently with other city agencies to make sure that we are aligning with their goals and addressing some of the key issues on the site. Can you advance the slide? Okay. So the reason for really starting this project was that Canton Waterfront Park is a wonderful park. It is underutilized and it is has a great potential. We really could do a lot more with that park than it currently is serving. And we really feel that it's a key waterfront site. It connects with the entire waterfront, and we felt that it was important to really look at this. With the additional residential development that's happening in Canton, this is essential. This is an essential parcel. Green space is really needed both in Canton, but also as a citywide park. And it really offers both an economic opportunity as well as an opportunity to reconnect to the waterfront. Rec and Parks is interested in expanding our outdoor programming. We really wanted to create a plan that would sort of lead us forward, and a vision that would lead us forward in that direction. Can you go to the next slide, please? Wonderful. So I think what I'm going to do now is just introduce Director Moore to sort of kick us off here.
Thank you, Kate. Can everyone hear me? Good. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. And I want to start by thanking you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and hear about this exciting opportunity about the Canton Waterfront Park. As we all know, equity has become one of our top pillars in our three organizational pillars, which is health and wellness, conservation, and social equity. I want to stress that we have been doing a tremendous job of looking at all of our green spaces throughout our city and making sure that we're providing equitable opportunities to all of our citizens of Baltimore. What's unique about the Canton Waterfront Partnership, I'm sorry, the Canton Waterfront Park is that where some people may see the location not being maybe one that meets some equitable locations, we feel firmly that this is a great opportunity to serve all of our communities and then provide opportunities and programming where everyone throughout the city of Baltimore can come and visit this unique park. There's an opportunity for us to expand on our programming. We see kayaking being a viable option. We see other opportunities where we can give people opportunities to have access to water. As BCRP looks to continue to expand on this, we understand that this project is not going to be something that we can do in 1 year, 2 years. This is more of a 10 to 15 year project because there is a large financial commitment to the expansion and the improvement of this park. But what our goal is as an agency is that we want your feedback on this master plan to make sure that we're headed in the right direction for this, what I would consider like a jewel of a park, and that we need to invest in. And then from there, we would help continue to develop strategies around how we fund this project. So again, on behalf of our agency, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Look forward to hearing the feedback. And I just want to thank our Rec and Park team led by Kate Breyer and our consultants for continuing to move this forward. So again, thank you for allowing me to share a few words and welcome you to this master plan.
Yeah, thank you. I think we have all our technical difficulties straightened out, so I think we're good to go. So thanks for your patience getting us through that. And as I said at the beginning, I'm Zolna Russell with Flora Teeter Landscape Architects. And I think Kate mentioned, although I couldn't hear her very well, that this has been a 3-year process. And I just wanted to say, I know those of you who have been involved since the very beginning have probably been a little frustrated in the pace of the project. But in that 3 years, actually a lot has happened. We've held 2 public meetings, 3 steering committee meetings. We've coordinated with many agencies and analyzed the existing building, developed a conceptual building design for a new building, developed 4 preliminary concepts for the master plan. We've been through 1 global pandemic and then refined master plan, which brings us all to tonight. So I think you will be very pleased to see what we've developed, and we really look forward to hearing from you about what you think about it. So these are some of the agencies who have been involved in that coordination. We have had a number of meetings with obviously Baltimore City Recreation and Parks, including Director Moore, the Department of Transportation. We've been coordinating with them on improvements to Boston Street. DPW has been involved with the utilities, and also DPW and DOT have a lot of the storage equipment that's currently located on the corner of Clinton and Boston. We've had meetings with the Marine Police and the Police Department to refine the Marine Police use of the park and to talk about whether they would be staying in the park or not. We've met with the Critical Area Commission, the Kayak Club, the Greenway, COPT, and the Department of Planning. So all of that input that we received, you'll see reflected in the design we're going to show you tonight. And I just wanted to go back and reiterate the guiding principles for the development of the park. And these are the things that we've been keeping in mind all along. First of all, this park is part of a citywide park network. And as Director Moore has mentioned, people do come and use this park from all over the city for many different uses, whether it be for an event or for fishing, or just to come and hang out and watch the sunset. But the park is also part of the local Canton neighborhood, so it also has to serve that function as their local park. The park should be sustainably designed and be able to be sustainably maintained and planned for resiliency, and I think you'll see that we've done that. Improved pedestrian and bicycle connections to the promenade, to the future development that's currently happening in Canton and will continue to happen to the east. Providing greater and more varied opportunities for outdoor recreation and environmental education by balancing passive and active uses of the park, and also maximizing potential of the waterfront. So right now the waterfront is only really accessible at the boat ramp, and we're improving opportunities to get closer to the water. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time reviewing the preliminary concepts, except to say that there are a lot of different options looked at. So I'm just going to scroll through these relatively quickly. Some of the things that were discussed was whether the Marine Police should stay in the park or not. And if they do, should they stay in their existing building or should they be in a different building? So we looked at a number of options for different buildings and different locations, the way the promenade interacts with the water, where it's located, what happens in front of what we're calling the Great Lawn adjacent to the Korean War Memorial, what the water access looks like there. This plan you'll see shows access to the transfer bridge, which is something that was eliminated as part of the final plan. This plan shows keeping the Marine Police in their existing building and what that might look like in terms of circulation around the park and access to the water. So these are just some of the things that we've looked at. All of these concepts were presented to the public in the public meeting number 2. And then we did receive quite a bit of feedback on that. And this is just a summary of what we heard. It was definitely preferred that the Marine Police stay on site. In addition to providing kind of eyes on the street, they help people who go out in boats and get into trouble or get stranded. They do provide a lot of security. They've been a very good partner to Baltimore City Park and Recs at the Canton Park, so people definitely wanted them to stay. Reducing the size of the parking lot was something we also heard as being desired. If you were involved in the earlier meetings, you'll recall that we did a parking study, which told us that the parking lot was actually sized adequately for the use, but then we took a look at who was using it, and there was a lot of use in the parking lot that was not necessarily related to the park. So we have looked at reducing the size of the parking lot. The preference was for one building rather than several buildings scattered around the site, better access to the waterfront, providing a play space for children, reflecting the history of Canton and of Baltimore, providing more shade and trees, better access for kayaks, both informal and for programs, and then cleaning up the trash. So those were the things that we had in our minds as we went forward to develop this draft master plan. So as part of the master plan, there are several unifying design elements, and these are things that are really found throughout the park, such as benches, trash cans, improved lighting, bicycle amenities. The promenade, of course, is probably one of the more dominant features of the park, and then planting more trees. So those are things that really pull it together. And this is an aerial photo of the existing condition of the park. So you can see it's really dominated by the parking lot in the center of the park, and then the Marine Police and Rec and Park building, as well as the parking that's required for the Marine Police operations. And then also in the corner here at Clinton and Boston, there's a lot of additional parking and storage containers that are not really being well used. So this is the master plan, and I'm going to just kind of review it, to give you an overview, and then go through it piece by piece. So the big move, I think, is creating more access to the water. The corner at Clinton and Boston, which you just saw covered in parking lot and storage units, is now converted to a beautiful gateway plaza, which brings you into the park, serves as a gateway not only to Canton Waterfront Park, but to the park system as a whole for visitors from the east. The Marine Police Parks building is gone and replaced with an event lawn, a new building over at the corner of South Elwood and Boston, improvements to the Boston Street sidewalk, as well as pedestrian improvements to get pedestrians more safely from the Canton neighborhood to the park. So I just want to talk for a moment about that, because that's something that we proposed as part of this master plan, but is really in the realm of the Department of Transportation for implementation. So as I mentioned, as part of this master plan, we are intending to replace the entire sidewalk on Boston Street where it touches the park, but also realign the crosswalks so they better fit with the medians that are already in Boston Street, which allow area of refuge for people to cross more safely. We would also be looking at retiming the lights to make sure that people have enough time to get across Boston Street safely. And then planting the median so that can also serve as a traffic calming device. So making sure people can arrive at the park safely is very important. And then the bike cycle track that comes down South Potomac also has to have a protected crossing so people can get to the park via their bikes. The parking lot has been reduced and reconfigured. It currently has 35 boat spaces, which translate into 70 car spaces. We've reduced it to 10 boat spaces or 20 car spaces. This includes space here for the Marine Police to have garages that are actually in the building so they can pull their boats in and out and won't need a lot of surface storage to store their equipment. And then in this area, we have an enhanced grove of trees with hammocks and other seating, a new restroom building, safe and clean, a water play, which is a combination of a splash pad and an artistic play space. We're envisioning unique and custom play equipment that can be used both when the water's on and when the water's off to create an exciting opportunity for children who visit the park. And then the Harbor Vista, which is, if you've been to the park, you'll know that this is the promenade or the promontory where you can stand here and really see almost everything that's ever happened in Baltimore, right back to Fort McHenry, to the industrial waterfront, to new development happening in Tide Point and in the harbor. It's the perfect place to tell the history of Baltimore. So that's really envisioned as a place where the history is interpreted to visitors. And then the Great Lawn, which is where most of the WTMD concerts and big events are held, is enhanced by improving the lawn there. A new low seat wall is envisioned for the border of the Korean War Memorial to not only denote where that border is, but also to be able to honor the Korean veterans by inscriptions that are carved into the wall. And then the promenade, which comes into the park from the east, will continue across the Great Lawn, come up between Water Play and Harbor Vista, cross the boat ramp, and then continue to the south of the parking lot, and then go up through the Gateway Plaza, where it terminates at the Gateway Plaza. And this is intended so that the promenade, which is going to serve both bicycles and pedestrians, will then connect to the Greenway across Boston Street. At the waterfront, we have some waterfront stadium seating, and we're going to show you images of all these things. Terraced plantings. The Marine Police Marina is relocated to create a safe cove for kayakers. There's floating kayak storage envisioned for this as an add to the marina, as well as floating launch. And then we've even put a baby trash wheel in to collect the trash that comes from two pretty big storm drains, which outfall in this area. And throughout, we're envisioning a softened shoreline planted not only on land, but also envisioning floating islands or floating wetlands in the water, and then aquatic improvements. So we'll talk a little more about that as we move through. This is the Gateway Plaza, and you can see how the promenade comes into the center of that, but there are fingers of decking and paving and planting that really transport you from the corner out into the park and towards the water. The white rectangles you see here are shown as tents, which can be put in for a farmer's market or for events. There's plenty of seating there, including number one here, which are envisioned as chaise lounges, which are you can move back and forth and sit there and look at the water. Right where number two is here is where the existing building currently is. So this lawn will be regraded to slope gently towards the water. You can see there's also a promenade extension which goes over and connects with the future COP development next door, and some pretty dramatic waterfront stadium seating, which allows people to kind of hang out and look at the water. Moving a little bit to the west is the reconfigured parking lot. And as I mentioned just a minute ago, it's envisioned that the Marine Police currently will be housed in this building. And we don't really know what's going to happen with the Marine Police at this point, but we have planned for them to stay in the park. And if for some reason that doesn't evolve, that building can be used for Baltimore City Rec and Park uses. Currently, it's envisioned as having Marine Police offices on the lower level, and then some Baltimore City Rec and Park offices on the upper level, as well as a small rental space which overlooks the water. So the reduced parking lot also allowed us to increase the efficiency of the circulation here. So all of the parking lot has been laid out with boats and trailers in mind, so it's very efficient circulation. It also allows us to put in 2 generously planted islands, stormwater just to the south between the parking lot and the promenade, and then these terrace plantings below, which serve both as seating and as habitat, and also can serve the function of environmental education. The BCRP kayak program is envisioned for the lower level of this building, and then there are several ramps taking you down to water level, where there's kayak storage and a kayak launch right here at the water. But this walk also takes you down to water level and then back up to the promenade. We've also included space for a kiosk here, which could be, it could be some food and beverage operation, or it could serve a programming function, but really we just have it as a placeholder for future use. And then moving towards the boat ramp. The boat ramp was one element of the park that was kind of a given. It was had to stay in the park, and we looked we looked at moving it, but the way it's graded, it just wasn't possible to move it. So the boat ramp is staying in its existing location, and that's there's really not a lot of opportunity to change that. But as I mentioned, there's a couple pretty major storm drains coming out here where the baby trash wheel is located to collect the trash, and hopefully that will go a long way towards cleaning up what we heard was a fairly big problem along the shoreline. Crossing from the BCRP building, there's several walks here, both the promenade and a pedestrian crossing with the new restrooms, which we're envisioning as something that's more modern, light, easier to secure. This area, which is between this walk and Boston Street, will have enhanced tree planting, hammocks, other movable seating to allow people to relax during events and just daily visits. And as I mentioned, the water play is really envisioned as something that could serve multi-purpose. It could be an interesting feature even when there aren't any children there, but also provide fun and interesting activities for kids and water in the summer months. And then the Harbor Vista, you walk up a ramp to this plaza where we have artistic interpretations of Baltimore's history from, Fort McHenry and before, all the way up to the modern day. And then the Great Lawn is terminated by a boardwalk, which actually goes out into the water and back in. The fishing pier will be located on this boardwalk, and that will allow us to provide better amenities for fisher people, including cleaning stations and trash cans. The aquatic enhancements that happen between the boardwalk and the shoreline will also improve the fishing in the park and beyond. The Great Lawn is really an open area intended for more spontaneous uses and events. We haven't shown the stages in this plan, but the stages would most likely be located where they are currently here and then on the other event lawn. And the promenade comes through and continues on up. The transfer bridge, originally, one of the options I mentioned, we looked at connecting to the transfer bridge and then decided against it. That it was a little too close to the shoreline and ended up cluttering the landscape trying to create a connection there. So we took that out of the plan. And then these are some sections which just show you how these various elements relate to the grade. The upper section here is the restroom, going through water play, the hammock grove, up to the Harbor Vista, where you get a great view of the water, and the boardwalk which comes in. The lower section shows the conceptual design of the building, which you can see has a green roof on it to allow people to go out and look over the parking lot, the kayak program on the lower level, the promenade going down to the Waterfront Stadium seating here. And then this section goes from the Gateway Plaza. This is the corner of Boston and Clinton through the plaza, and you can see the gently sloping event lawn. And we're showing a temporary stage here for events and concerts, and then the Waterfront Stadium seating, which really allows you to get very close to the water. And then these are some images of what that might look like. This is the Gateway Plaza looking out towards the event lawn. It's very, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Very lovely and inviting, and really integrates the promenade nicely into the gathering space. And then this is an image of standing on the boardwalk looking back towards the park. You can see the building in the distance, here, the restroom building here, water play, harbor vista up here, and then beyond. So I wanted to point out a couple of things that we've thought about as part of the plan development, and making sure that bicyclists were accommodated was one of the priorities. So as I mentioned, we had met with the Greenway folks and wanted to make sure that this park and the promenade specifically was could accommodate both bicyclists and pedestrians. So the waterfront promenade is actually widened a little bit as it goes through the park to make that accommodation. In addition, we have bicycle amenities proposed at the terminus of the Potomac Street cycle track, as well as the Boston and Clinton intersection at the Gateway Plaza, because we want to make sure that this park is very usable and friendly to bicyclists, but can also accommodate the bicyclists while it accommodates pedestrians and other users. And I'm going to turn it over to Brad to talk a little bit about the engineering aspects.
Okay, thanks, Zolna. This slide shows a lot of the improvements that are needed from an engineering or infrastructure standpoint. As you can see here, shown in blue are the microbial retention areas. It will be required to meet MDE stormwater management regulations, as well as the cities and the Chesapeake Bay critical area requirements. They'll be installed with each phase that takes place. So you have to install the stormwater management with that phase. With those improvements will also be storm drains that will be tying into the existing systems that are out there. There's two main storm drains that bisect the site, as you can see here in the middle. The one goes to the, on the plan here, to the left of the building, and that is an existing 36-inch drain, which will remain in place. It's owned and operated by the city. And the other one is to the right, which is an existing system as well, but will have to be relocated slightly to allow for the new building. We will maintain the same outfall for that system. Both of those systems will outfall into the harbor right at where we're talking about putting the baby trash wheel. So that'd be a great amenity for the project. As Zona mentioned earlier, we're going to move the promenade away from the shoreline and allow for the shoreline to be a more natural environment. Improvements that are going to occur just like she talked about. We're also going to remove the bulkhead that is existing where the water taxi stop is now. And we're also looking into relocating that water taxi stop to another location. When that bulkhead's removed, again, we will make that more of a natural shoreline, and you will have the promenade extending out into the water and the floating wetlands and other aquatic improvements that Zona mentioned earlier.
I just wanted to mention that the water taxi stop is envisioned to move to the Copt property, so it will still be in close proximity to Canton Waterfront Park. If for some reason that doesn't happen, we could certainly be accommodated as part of the park development.
We also show on here the critical area buffer that's required by the Critical Area Commission to maintain. We try to reduce our development within those limits. We also looked at the 100-year floodplain and made sure that the buildings stayed out of the 100-year floodplain, and also took into consideration sea level rise that could occur and place it above that
Yeah, so the
elevation.
park is really planned for resiliency to allow the water to rise and fall without any major damage to any major infrastructure. Thank you.
That's it, so.
And then just wanted to highlight the change in the tree canopy. If you'll recall from the aerial photo, there really are not a lot of trees in the park currently. You know, probably 30 to 40% of the park is currently paved. So the tree canopy proposed as part of this park development is really an improvement, and we were really striving to hit the city's 40% tree canopy goal. So most of the existing trees will remain, and then many more will be planted. And then this is an aerial view of the park. So I see a couple comments coming through in the chat, so I just wanted to take a moment and pause and answer them. Somebody just asked when COPT is going to start and will there be a large marina there? And perhaps someone from COPT is on the call and can clarify in the chat, but our understanding is the COPT development is still pretty far off in the future, and we don't know whether there will be a marina there or not. So we are, since they didn't have any definitive plans at this time, we went through and designed the park as we thought it should be, and then since it is a phased plan, things can be adapted if something changes on the COPT property. So anyone else have any? Thank you, Tony Romero, who said, yay, 40% tree canopy. I agree. So now I'd just like to talk a little bit about the phasing and implementation of the park. Of course, as Director Moore mentioned, this is a long-term plan. And so there are many phases, as you'll see here. And I just wanted to remind everyone that the Boston Street improvements are really part of the Department of Transportation's purview. So they will be done as under a separate project. The sidewalk improvements we have assumed will be done as part of our project. So when trying to decide how to phase this project, we really tried to look at things that could be implemented, I don't want to say relatively inexpensively and easily without a lot of major infrastructure change. So that's how we arrived at phase 1A, 1B, and 1C. 1A is the Gateway Plaza. I'm just going to go through here. The storage containers that are there currently are apparently not in use. They could be easily removed. There's a lot of pavement there that could be easily removed to create this important Gateway Plaza. This is something that would have an immediate effect on not only on the park, but also on the neighborhood, and would be a really good first start. Phase 1B would be reducing the size of the the parking lot, excuse me. That would not include the changes that would need to happen as part of the building project and the Marine Police project. So during phase 1A and 1B, the existing building is still in place with a minimal amount of parking for the Marine Police. That creates a little bit of a bottleneck for the promenade going through, so we're assuming some temporary installation that could connect those two phases would be put in place for the duration. And then phase 1C is improvements to the Great Lawn. So creating the walkway network you see here, improving the lawn. We know there's a drainage problem there, finding out what's causing that and resolving that, and then putting in the low wall at the Korean War Memorial. Phase 2 is envisioned as the Hammock Grove, the restroom and water play, and then Harbor Vista. And these are all features that involve a little more design, but also provide great amenities for the city and the neighborhood. Phase 3A would be the new building. Obviously, that is one of the more expensive elements in the park, so we wanted to give time to make sure that it was sized and designed properly, and the funds could be found found to build it. As part of 3A, the parking lot revisions to accommodate the Marine Police would be made. And then 3B is the boardwalk, which extends from the Great Lawn and goes out over the water. And then in phase 4, the Marine Police building and parking lot would be demolished and the event lawn created and the promenade reconnected for the full. And then phase 5 are the waterfront improvements below the the promenade, which would be the terrace seating, the ramp down to the water. The Marine Police Marina would be relocated to create the boating cove, and then the trash wheel. So you can see it's a long process, but a good one. And then we've taken a look at what this might cost, and as you can imagine, there is a substantial investment to be made, but Director Moore, I don't know if you have any further insight on this, or Kate?
Yes, sure. Director Moore, did you want to?
No, Kate, I'll let you go ahead and respond.
Okay. Yeah, so the city, this is because this is such a amazing project, and it has quite a high cost. As Director Moore said, it really is going to be a 10 to 15 year long-term plan, and hence the phasing that Zolna just discussed. The city will likely put in some funds, but the main focus will be looking for private funds to invest in this amazing park. So that's where we're looking right now. We do not have any details about how we're going to be raising the funds. That will be a discussion that will be taking place after this plan.
Okay, I'm just going to add just a little bit. So as we as an agent, hopefully everybody can hear me, but as we continue to look at our capital and the continued requests of the community, of course, as Kate stated, to invest, $29-30 million in just this one location with capital funds is not the best solution for us as an agency or as a city. So as we look at partnerships, as we look at opportunities where we can collaborate, securing any kind of state funds or grants that may be available, even looking at federal dollars to help support this beyond just the private dollars. So, I think what we're showing tonight is the master plan to this project, getting feedback, and then our next phase would be looking at, once we have a final plan, is how we're going to fund it, what funding strategies are out there. So, I think, knowing the cost is important, but establishing a timeline and then being transparent and communicating with the community, which is important, and which we will commit to doing as we continue to move down this project.
Thank you. So, as everybody said, next steps are to move forward and finish the master plan, and then develop a fundraising plan to raise some funding to implement the park design. I did want to remind everybody to please provide us your comments on the chat, and also let everybody know that the Facebook Live presentation will be available on BCRP's Facebook page through January 8th, and we are going to be collecting comments until that time. So just wanted to take a moment and answer the questions we hadn't talked about in the chat. There was a question about the floating wetlands precluding fishing from the pier, and I would say no, they don't preclude fishing from the pier. The islands that you see in this drawing are graphically shown. They could certainly be located to allow open areas for fishing, but in fact, they'll improve fishing because there'll be much better fish habitat. I don't know if you've ever seen the videos that the aquarium has of what happens underneath their floating islands, but it's quite remarkable in terms of crabs and fish and all the wildlife that is actually found under there. So I think that those two things are very compatible. There was a question about the water taxi and why it's being moved so far from the main section of the neighborhood. And the water taxi is sort of up in the air at this point. It may or may not be moved, but if it is moved, it will be moved to this property here. And your question was, what is COPT? COPT stands for Corporate Offices Property Trust, and they are the owners of this parcel just to the south of the park. They do have development plans for that parcel. I don't know where they are with those or what the time frame is, but in our conversations, COPT is part of the stakeholder group, and in our conversations, they had indicated that they would be willing to host the water taxi on their property. So it will stay in place for the immediate future until a long-term plan is developed.
That's also not to say that, you know, if there was a desire on the community's part to have two stops, one at the park and one at COPT, that certainly could be considered.
Yes. There was another question about accommodating the space and parking needed by the kinetic sculpture race. And I would think the parking lot is more than ample to stage the sculpture race. Perhaps parking for the racers, but not necessarily parking for spectators could be accommodated. Somebody also mentioned the inclusion of hard reef balls as habitat, and that is part of the plan for the aquatic habitat is reef balls and oyster reefs. So we are definitely planning to improve the aquatic environment as much as possible. There's a question about the presentation being sent to the Canton Community Association. I think we can certainly accommodate that. So they can you can either refer them to the Facebook page and they can get it there, or we're happy to send you a PDF copy of it.
Yes, I'd be happy to.
And then there's a question about master plans for parks. And that I'll turn over to Kate and Director Moore.
Well, this, I'm not quite sure how to answer this. I wouldn't say that Recon Parks does master plans as part of our general capital planning. We will be doing more of a comprehensive plan coming up in the future, but Canton Waterfront Park, the plan for this came about several years ago. I would say probably four to 5 years ago, when we began work on renovating Dipsky Playground. And there was a wading pool there, and we sort of, in conversations with the community and sort of looking at what was available in terms of features, it looked like we weren't going to be able to provide a splash pad in the Dipsky Playground area. And so we started to look at Canton Waterfront Park as an additional option for play and recreation in Canton, but also as a citywide facility. So as planning takes a long time, as you can see. It evolves over time, and we try to incorporate as many needs and desires as possible as we move forward. And it is also a framework, which is not to say that this is set in stone. It's an idea, it's a framework, it's a plan to move forward. As things change, the plan needs to adapt. So, you know, there will be things that we have not thought about, and then we will have to address those as we move forward. Are there additional questions or comments? Oh, so there's a question about information about Recon Park's programming for kayaking from the park. So Recon Parks is currently looking at expanding our outdoor recreation programming. This is something that will be developed over time, so we do not have exact plans. We have a very robust kayaking programming happening out of Middle Branch. And what we would like to do is provide kayaking on this side of the harbor at Canton. So But there are really no facilities here to store any kayaks. Our main person who did the kayaking program in the past would actually bring over kayaks in a big trailer over to Canton and provide some programming. So the idea is to be able to provide it on a more regular basis over time. So that will be developed. We don't have it set, and of course we're going to have the facilities first before we can really expand that programming here.
There are also a couple questions on funding.
Okay.
I'll leave to you.
I see here one about our federal grants an option for the project. Yes, they are. And that's something that we will be looking into. The National Park Service has an annual grant through the Land and Water Conservation Funding this could be a candidate for that.
Kate, I want to go back to Mr. Ellis. He had a comment, and he's absolutely right. But I think, as Kate shared earlier, yes, the agency is looking at going away from just developing individual master plans. However, as Kate stated, this master plan started 4 to 5 years ago. But she also highlighted us. One of the things that we're doing, I've been here now just a little over 3 years, is that our goal now is to create a comprehensive plan to look at these various master plans. So when I got here, for me, what the question is about the multiple different master plans that was done for various parks, but then the master plan sat on the shelf. There was no funding for them, and that's not something we want to do going forward. But one of the first steps for us as an agency is looking at the city as a comprehensive approach, look at the existing master plans and figure out how we accommodate the needs of those master plans that was created years ago, some dating as far back as 8 to 10 years ago, as well as how do we move forward. And the best way to do that is with the comprehensive plan. So, Mr. Elwood, you're not wrong by stating Brecken Park is moving away from doing individual master plans. But like I said, this was started 4 to 5 years ago, already in the hopper. There was another question about traffic signals. Of course, we don't control traffic signals, but I'll be more than happy to share your comment with our Department of Transportation, and then have someone from their agency maybe follow up to give you some shed some light about a traffic signal at East Avenue and Boston Street. So I think those two was the questions that was missed, or seemed like Kate, I want to go back and highlight.
Yes, thank you, Director Moore. There was other question about how much funding is expected to come from the city, considering there are parks in underprivileged parts of the city that are in full disrepair. As I said, there is not funding for this park, and we're constantly looking at balancing how do we make. I mean, our priority is to serve the most underprivileged parts of the city, and that is where our priority lies. However, there are some needs in other neighborhoods as well. And as we said before, there is a huge residential new developments that are happening in this area. And so, we don't have any funding at the moment, and we will be looking at developing a plan for that as we move forward.
Thank you, Kate. Anybody else have any questions or comments they'd like us to answer right now? If not, we'll close up the meeting with a reminder again to please share your experience tonight and share the information on the Facebook page with your friends, colleagues, neighbors. We are taking comments till January 8th. So there's several weeks more for people to share their knowledge. We just got a comment about this park is included in the designation of the historic Canton Historic District. Is that a question or a statement? Looks like he got half his question out and then, okay. Last call for questions, everybody. Comments? Thank you so much for your attention this evening and for tuning in. I know this is not the ideal way to have a public meeting, but we really appreciate you tuning in and providing us with your comments. Adam Borman from Rec and Parks has asked if this is a good format for presentations, and that is good information for us too. We try and keep it as informative as possible and try and get as much feedback as possible. I think the other half of the question from Raymond Barr came in about whether his designation of historic Canton would interfere with the planning. And I'll let Kate answer that, but as far as I know, it does not.
No, I don't think so, but that is something that we will be certainly checking with CHAP as we move forward on developing phases of the plan.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for your attention this evening and for all your feedback. We really appreciate it and look forward to hearing more from you. So have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Broadcast is done.